Oh, Tiffany!
Yes, Doctor?
What are you doing to the radio station console?
We're only broadcasting at half, Doctor. Something isn't right.
I personally fiddled with the console.
Fiddled is right. You also diddled it.
How dare you!
Look at these wires. You've crossed so many of them, it looks like a spider web.
Don't touch them! Ah!
Hey, your face looks like that pigeon you barbecued yesterday.
"12 chimes. It's midnight. At midnight, anything can happen." Buenas tardes. Tonight we have a spooky story for you. But before we travel to Mexico to introduce you to their most famous ghost, we'd like to introduce you to Monster Kid Radio.
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Hear your host, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classics and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, Classic Monsters, Modern Talk, and the Head of Rondo Hatton, only on Monster Kid Radio.
Local legends are sometimes just that. Old stories embellished over the years to scare children and tourists, but not always. Join us now for a spooky story of two American mystery novelists and their young son who have a face-to-face encounter with a tragic and unsettling legend of Mexico in the play La Llorona.
Buenos tardes, Senora Davila.
Good evening, Mrs. Henderson. Where is your husband and boy?
They should be along soon. Senora, you should hear Billy. He's trying to learn the words for everything and asking everyone, ¿Qué es eso?
That's wonderful. Young children learn so fast. He has ambition to live in Mexico?
We all do. It's very beautiful here. And we've been so productive. My husband and I have almost completed our latest novel, the first draft anyway. And Billy is excited to learn Spanish so he can talk to your boy Carlito.
Carlito now asks to learn English words. They'll learn from each other, no?
Yes, I hope so.
Here they are.
Good evening, Senora Davila. Violet?
Good evening, Mr. Henderson. ¿Cómo estás esta tarde, Billy?
Bien.
Billy, please greet Senora Davila.
Señora Davila, estás hermosa esta noche.
Muy bien, Billy. Muy bien. Oh, Billy, did you hurt yourself?
He slipped just now and skinned his knee a little. You okay, buddy?
Hugs make it all better, right, Mommy?
There now. Better?
And your husband? Cualquier emoción para la policía hoy?
What's that, Joe?
I said, any excitement for the police today?
No, senor, it has been very quiet. We might have to move to Mexico City so my husband doesn't die of aburrimiento, boredom.
Good thing we're not looking to San Miguel for ideas for our latest mystery novel.
That's true, senor. You are in the wrong place for that kind of inspiration. Now, would you like to see the menu?
Everything you've suggested so far, Senora Davila, has been absolutely delicious. We leave our fate in your hands. What would you suggest this evening?
So much responsibility. You wait, and I will bring you something wonderful.
Oh, Senora Davila, I wanted to ask, is it safe to walk at night along the water, along the river?
Oh, right. With the full moon tonight? Joe and I were thinking the water and the view of the town would be lovely.
Oh, you mustn't. Not at night.
I'm surprised to hear that. This town is so safe.
There are no criminals to fear, Senor Henderson, but...
What is it, Senora Davila?
I don't want to seem superstitious, but...
Please, I hope I'm not being too forward to say. You can tell us anything.
You will think I'm an old-fashioned and silly-headed woman.
Of course not.
Well, there is a tale told of a woman, La Llorona.
La Llorona? What does it mean?
It means the crying woman. La Llorona haunts the lake crying out for her husband and her lost children.
Lost children?
Many, many years ago, La Llorona was abandoned by her husband, el amor de su vida. Because he did not want children, she was devastated as she loved him very much.
What happened to her? Y los niños, the children?
The story goes that in a fit of grief, she drowned her children and herself in the lake.
How awful.
Oh, I see. She's a ghost.
Yes, senor.
Why does she cry?
She cries, Billy, because she is very sad and she misses her family.
Oh no, she's sad.
Oh, don't worry, Billy. It's just a story. A fascinating local legend.
I'm afraid it is no legend, senor.
You can't be serious. Surely it's a story to convince the children to stay close to home.
Maybe we shouldn't take our walk along the river. Joe, let's stay in town tonight.
Nonsense. Living criminals are the danger, if they exist in this sleepy town. And as to the supernatural, well, I think we can handle a sad ghost or two. Isn't that right, Billy?
Sure.
You're probably right, senor. Ghost in this modern age? But beware of the sounds indicating her presence.
Senora, with all due respect, you're sounding like a spooky radio play.
Shh, Joe. What kind of sounds?
The sound of dripping water, or, of course, the sound of a woman weeping.
I understand, Senora.
Please, come straight back to town if you hear anything unusual. Promise me, please. Prométeme, por favor.
We promise. It's so peaceful. I honestly can't imagine any evil lurking around here.
You hear that bird, Billy? That's the call of a mockingbird. He's calling out to his mate.
Does La Llorona call, like the mockingbird, to find her husband?
Who?
The ghosty woman, remember?
Oh, right. No, not like the mockingbird, Billy. Poor La Llorona. I'm afraid her romance... well, that ship has sailed.
What ship?
We shouldn't joke, Joe. It feels disrespectful.
Oh, she must hate loving families trespassing on her haunt.
Joe...
I love you, my darling, and your little boy, too. Please don't go drowning yourself on my account.
Joe... Really. You're a good catch, Joe Henderson, but don't push it.
I love you, my darling. I cannot live without you.
Yuck!
Ah, this is the part of the story when the ghost makes her appearance. And there she is.
Right on schedule. All kidding aside, Joe, what was that?
La Llorona, por supuesto.
Please, Joe, that's really not funny. You're gonna scare Billy.
Nah, you're my tough guy, huh? My hard-boiled junior detective. Right, Billy?
Right.
Oh my God, Joe. That really sounds eerie.
Jesus. Whatever that is, it's moving fast.
No more mockingbirds.
Yeah, you're right, buddy. No more mockingbirds.
Joe, where did all the birds go?
The lady, she's crying.
I don't know what that is, Billy, but let's head back to town.
Agreed. Billy, come here and hold Mommy's hand. Billy.
I want to tell the lady.
Tell her what, Billy?
Hugs make it all better.
Hold my hand, Billy.
Mommy, maybe she doesn't know about hugs.
Billy, come here.
What's that noise? What the hell was that? Something attacked me.
Joe, you're bleeding.
What? Hey, where's Billy?
Billy, he's gone. Joe, oh my God, Joe, where's
What?
Billy?
He was just here. Billy! Billy!
He's gone,
Billy,
Joe.
God damn it, where are you?
We have to get help. Joe, we have to go back to town. The Davilas will know what to do.
Billy wasn't even scared.
What are you talking about?
He wasn't scared of her, Violet. He wanted to give her a hug.
Police Chief Davila.
Mira, ¿qué está pasando? What is going on here?
Billy, he's missing.
Senor Henderson, you're hurt. But we must get you to a doctor.
Forget that now. We need your help to find Billy.
Bueno, tell me what happened. Exactly.
There was a woman.
We don't know what it was.
Your wife warned us.
No te entiendo. I don't understand.
La Llorona.
What? Madre Dios. You tell me you've seen her?
Someone took Billy.
I see. Rosa, Carlito, ¿qué está pasando?
We saw you from the restaurant and came running. What is wrong?
Ay, Dios. La Llorona.
No, you've seen her. And Billy? Where's Billy? Oh no, Billy!
Ghosts kidnapping children? This can't be happening.
Focus, señor. Okay, Rosa, what do we know about La Llorona?
She wears a white dress. She searches for her children. She haunts the lake, is soaking wet, dripping water.
We heard water.
Ay, qué barbaridad. No, la agua.
What about water?
She haunts the water.
She'll eventually return to the water and take Billy with her.
What?
Oh my God, we have to find them.
Okay, bueno. Rosa, I'm going back for my gun.
What good will that do against a ghost?
In case she is not a ghost, senora. Just in case. Rosa, you run back and grab a flashlight from the restaurante. Leave Carlito with Senora Henderson. Pero run, okay? Quickly.
Sí.
We can't just stand here.
Just a few minutes.
Mama?
Don't worry, honey. They'll be right back. Un minuto.
Carlito.
Carlito?
He could draw her out, and then we could grab Billy.
You must be mad.
It could work.
We can't put Carlito in danger.
He wouldn't be. I'll be ready this time.
The Davilas wouldn't allow it.
I've got to take that risk. Carlito, you want to go see Billy? ¿Encontramos a Billy?
Sí, señor.
Okay, vámonos.
Wait, Joe. They'll have a plan.
Not as good as this one. Venga, Carlito.
I won't let you.
Get away from me, Violet, so help me.
Oh, God, my ankle.
I'm sorry, Violet. I love you. I have to do this.
No. Oh, Joe, how could you? Come back! Help!
Senora! Mrs. Henderson!
Where is your husband?
I don't know what came over him.
¿Y Carlito? ¿Dónde? Where is Carlito?
Carlito!
He's
hoping La Llorona will come to Carlito. We must find them.
Yes, but I can't walk.
No, finalmente. Rosa, give me the flashlight. Take Senora Henderson back to the hotel and I'll go after the boys. Go. Vámonos, go!
No. I'm sorry, Mrs. Henderson. You must go back on your own. I'm going to find my son.
No, pero... Okay, Rosa. Okay, fine. Pero we have to go now.
Please find Billy and Carlito.
Pero yo sé, los encontraremos, ¿ok?
No te preocupes.
Ahora, vámonos!
We will find them.
Please be careful.
Carlito, hold on to my hand. Toma mi mano, Carlito. I'm keeping a strong grip on you. I'm pretty sure this is where we saw her. It's hard to tell. Carlito, call out to him. Grita, Billy. Debemos obtener su atención.
Billy, ¿dónde estás, Billy?
Nothing. Try again. De nuevo, Carlito. Grita.
Billy, ¿dónde estás? Billy.
She's here.
Hola, Billy.
Carlito, hi.
La Llorona. ¿No estés triste, señora? ¿Podemos ser amigos? Sí, voy a tomar tu mano.
No, Carlito, come back! You have them both now.
She hardly cries at all now, Daddy.
Let them go. They belong with me. They're not your children. Ellos no son tus niños. Déjalos ir. Come to me, boys. Ven a mí. Won't you let them go? Déjalos ir, maldita sea. No, don't leave, not with the children, for God's sakes. No. No te vayas. My darling. Mi amor, no te vayas. Soy tu esposo. Te he regresado. Deja a los niños y ven a mí. Yes, that's right. That's my girl. Tu esposo está aquí. Déjalos ir. Te quiero, cariño. Mi amor, te quiero. Ven a mí. Run, boys! Run! Corren!
Boys! Chicos! ¿Dónde estamos?
Oh, thank God. Gracias a Dios que estás a salvo.
Mr. Henderson? You are very lucky.
Yes.
If anything had happened to Carlito...
Please understand. I did what I felt I had to do, but I'm awfully glad they're safe.
Your wife is not.
What? Where is she?
She had to make her way back to town with an injured ankle, thanks to you.
I suggest you go back to the hotel and find your wife. And we'll take Billy with Carlito to the doctor. He lives next door to the restaurante. To make sure they're okay.
Yes. Of course. Billy, are you okay?
Yeah. Mommy?
Okay, then. I'll meet you back in the restaurant in 1 hour, yes?
We will talk more about this later, senor.
Damn you. Maldito, Señor Henderson.
Violet? Violet? Not here. What happened tonight? I must be losing my mind. Well, I guess we all are. I've got to find Violet. Oh, lights out. Hey, what happened to the light? Violet? No. No.
Mi amor.
No. Señora. Oh.
Te echo de menos. Ven a mí. Ven a mí.
Señora.
Mi amor.
La Llorona.
Ven a mí. Mi amor. Ven a mí.
Please join us next time for a spooky and kooky story about the dramatic hijinks and mysterious past of a 1930s radio studio in the play The Foley Artist's Folly. Tonight's episode was written and produced by Amy Pavey. Heard in tonight's play were Jess Hutchinson as Violet Henderson, Corina as Signora Davila and La Llorona, Alexander Kukor as Joe Henderson and Carlito Davila, Aaron Miner as Police Chief Davila, and introducing Ilana Horowitz as Billy Henderson. Episode cover art by Arthur Kay. Audio recording assistance by Matthew Nelson, David Johansson, Seth Williams, and William Rames. Logo design by Michael Dern and yours truly, Josh Horowitz. If you enjoy our plays, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, or drop us a line via email. The address is in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. And please be sure to visit our new website at 12chimesradio.com. Learn about the talented crew, cast, musicians, and artists who all contribute to the wonderful tales of suspense, horror, and mystery you've been hearing. Thank you.
Brace yourself. You're listening to Twisted Pulp Radio Hour.
He was tall, very tall. The man they call Jaron. He stood at the exit of the train cart and glanced over at several corners of the train station. He was mustached, balding on top, hair parted in a ridiculous schoolboy fashion. His face showed of a man very serious and stern. His suit was a bland gray with a fat blue tie that most definitely didn't match. Jaron found a cab parked a few feet away from the newsstand behind the train station. The only cab not bothered by anyone. He walked up to the cab, opened the door to the left rider's side, and slid in on the noisiest vinyl covering he'd ever come across. The cab driver was in the middle of his lunch, a messy hamburger where the sauce sat comfortably on his chin. "I'm not on duty," the cabbie said, his mouth spitting out chewed bun on his shirt. He casually wiped it off. He was looking at Jaron in the rearview mirror. Jaron sighed. "Look, I need a ride into Vandy. I'll pay double the rate." The cabbie finished his burger in one swallow. When he was done, he laughed. "My God, friend, no one rides into Vandy. Not in the least. It's a good 56 miles from this train station. It's also the most boring town in America." "As you say, but I still need a ride. It includes the tip." Jaron avoided the cabbie's gaze in the mirror. "It would have to, friend. On top of the fare and double the rate." He started the engine and the cab coughed and spat out a dark cloud of fumes that nearly choked Jaron to death. "And away we go," the cabbie said in a sing-song voice. A few miles down a road that took them across a hill of green grass and cows with eyes the color of the black hole. Still, Jaron would not look his driver in the eyes. This annoyed the cab driver to no end. "For you to pay this amount of money, not rent a car, must be pretty important to go to Vandy," the cabbie said. Jaron thought a moment. He kept his eyes on the scenery. "Yes, I suppose it must be," he retorted. The cabbie waited a few minutes. He laughed, looked in the rearview mirror. "Why didn't you rent a car, friend?" Jaron breathed through flared nostrils. "I can't drive," he said. "You're kidding. At your age." The cabbie turned around briefly to see Jaron's reaction. "Business there?" Jaron thought again. His eyebrows lowered. "I'm not sure why I'm going there," he said. He saw a pair of confused eyes in the rearview mirror. He looked away. "Yes, business." The cabbie felt the iciness of Jaron's voice. He shrugged and said, "I don't care what you do." The ride was a long one for both driver and rider. Still, almost any conversation would end with a false start. The jazz that came from the radio annoyed both, so it would get switched off several times. Jaron nearly fell asleep staring out the window a number of times. He wasn't sure, but he felt whenever his eyes were getting, so too was the cabbie's, as the car would jerk back and forth on the road between lanes. In 2 hours by the back roads, they reached Vandy. The cab pulled into a town reminiscent of white picket fences and clean roads, the stuff only existing in most minds and TV land. The cabbie seemed to get excited. "Man, I haven't been here in years." The cab pulled into the parking lot of the only hotel in town. Jaron paid the cabbie. The stack of bills rested in the palm of his hands, then rolled them up in a rubber band and placed them in a cigar box under his seat. "Hey, you have a nice visit, mister." The cabbie turned to Jaron, who had already slammed the door to the cab. Jaron walked into the lobby. A group of elderly people dressed in black parted in the middle for him to pass. He stood at the desk, waiting for the 2 clerks to acknowledge him. One clerk, a woman with dyed black hair fashioned into a beehive, looked at Jaron as if she'd seen the tax man at her doorstep. The other clerk, a man dressed in a black tuxedo, had eyes that bugged out of his head and was constantly blinking. "Excuse me," Jaron said. "Could I have some service, or do you have to be a member?" They exchanged looks, but the male clerk stepped forward. He blinked twice, said in a high-pitched voice, "Very droll, sir." "I'd like a room," Jared said. They exchanged looks. Whispers came from the circle of elderly people. The male clerk blinked twice. "I'm afraid I haven't any rooms available, sir." He blinked twice more. "Oh, no." Jaron gave a tug at the lips of what resembled a smile, but it could also have been gas. "There are very few vehicles in the parking lot. This, what I believe, is the only hotel in town." "That matters not." He blinked twice. "The parking extends down the street, sir. We have a town pageant, sir. Folks from the adjoining counties are also here for the occasion." He blinked twice more. "I was not aware there was holiday." Good day, sir. He blinked twice, went back to the female clerk and their conversation. Jaron was dumbfounded. He'd never experienced such rudeness. As he left the hotel, he glanced back. The circle of elderly folk were staring. One lady had her head bowed, mumbling a prayer. Jaron had no idea where to go next. He decided to walk toward the courthouse. In a long row of houses, he'd seen a cafe in the tradition of a malt shop. He'd passed a drugstore where 4 men, dressed in black and blue suits, sat in rocking chairs. "Excuse me, gentlemen," Jaron stepped toward them. They exchanged uneasy looks. "Could any of you point me in the direction of a bed and breakfast?" "What the hell would you want with a bed and breakfast room?" one of them said in a shocked voice. "That's a silly question," Jaron fired back. "I'll tell you, son, but I don't think Haley will give you a room," another said, stubbed out his cigar. "Why wouldn't she rent me a room?" Jaron was exasperated. They exchanged looks. The third man sighed. He stood, pointed. "Go a ways 2 blocks up this road. You see a sign for Lafferty Avenue? Take that. The 3rd house on the left. You'll know her house. She's got a sign that says Haley's Place." "How convenient," Jaron said sarcastically. "Thank you, gentlemen." He walked away, knowing they were staring at him. Jaron knocked on the door of a quaint 2-story house that was painted powder blue. The curtains in the front room moved slightly, placed back carefully. The door opened, and a woman in her early 50s, dressed in black, appeared smiling. "Yes?" she said in broken English. She focused her eyes on the man standing at her door, and her breath exited her body uneasily. She stepped back and tried to close the front door. "Wait!" Jaron caught the door with a hand. "Please, I'm only here for a room." They struggled with the door, the woman finally winning the battle. "I have no rooms left," she screamed and slammed the door shut. Jaron walked away, running a hand across an exasperated face. "I only want lodging for the night," he said to no one in particular. "What's the matter, friend? Can't get a place to stay?" Jaron looked up, and it was the cabbie who brought him into town. Jaron smiled slightly. "It seems I rub people the wrong way." He walked up to the cab that was idling in the street. He leaned in, resting his arm on the side mirror. "You haven't left yet?" "Nah. I'm enjoying this place. People are friendly. Well, to me. Food here is wonderful. Gee, mister, I don't know what you did to these people, but they treat me like a king." The cabbie thought a second. He slapped his hand on the steering wheel. "I got it. Come with me, and I'll get you some food and a room." Jaron was more than willing. Like a child who received the best Christmas present ever, he giggled as he jumped in the back seat of the cab. An hour later, cabbie and Jaron were parked along a curb by the empty school grounds. Jaron was slumped over in the back seat, with his hand casually draped over his face. The cabbie fiddled with the car radio. Neither was saying much. Cabbie couldn't stay quiet for long. "Like I said, I don't know what you did to these people," Cabbie said, almost in a whisper. "I didn't do anything to these—" "Oh, hell with it." Jaron kicked the back seat. "You want me to take you back to the train station? Say where you're from?" Jaron sighed. "I don't remember," he said, lost in thought. "Okay, don't tell me." No, I swear, I don't remember. I look in my wallet. It says on an ID card I live in Santa Barbara. I really don't remember." Cabbie reached back there, took the wallet from Jaron. He looked through it. "John Jaron, 5504 Furrow Drive, Santa Barbara, California. Looks like this is your wife." Cabbie showed him the photo through the plastic casing inside the wallet. A wedding picture of Jaron holding hands with a young blonde woman dressed as a bride. He is a groom. No pics of any kids, but one of a Great Dane. "You really don't remember anything? Job, parents, where you grew up?" Jaron shook his head. "Geez, friend, you got it bad." "Hey, the town pageant is starting. Let's go look." Cabbie jumped out of the car, starstruck. Jaron reluctantly followed Cabbie out of the car and down the street. He stood beside Cabbie and hundreds of onlookers as a band of people dressed in black walking behind an old hearse led by a horse and a driver with a whip in one hand, reins in the other. The onlookers were tossing lilies at the feet of a woman walking directly behind the hearse. "Ain't that something, friend? Right out of a PBS drama, huh? reenactment of some kind. The cabbie noticed Jaron wasn't at his side anymore. Jaron had rushed out into the crowd of marching people in the street, fighting his way to the woman right behind the hearse. When he reached her, Jaron turned her around, tore the veil from her face. It was the bride from his wedding picture. He fell backwards onto the back of the hearse. The horse had stopped in its tracks. Jaron peered inside the hearse window. He saw himself lying there in the velvet lining of the hearse, arms folded across the front of his black suit, eyes closed, resting so peaceful.
Brace yourself. You're listening to Twisted Pulp Radio Hour.
Thompson showed up late, sporting his dark blue tie that Joan had bought him. In the 14 years of marriage, she always bought him a tie for his birthday, and a dark blue one for that matter. He stopped at the door of the auction room, fiddled with the tie. "I'm not even sure this tie goes with a light pink shirt," he said and sighed. From the door he could hear the auctioneer's booming voice asking for another bid. No takers. Then the gavel banged and he announced that Smith had won the bid. Thompson made a noise from his throat. "I hope that bastard isn't here." Thompson ran a hand up and down his face. He was tired. If he wasn't out chasing a soul to take to the other side, then he was at auctions all over the world buying souls for the agency. Everyone thinks it's only one spirit in a robe and holding a scythe that's death. Actually, there are several agencies out collecting. And there's two things every agent of death hates. One is for a soul recently deceased to run or go missing. Two, for another agent to steal a soul from underneath an agent. The last thing is what Floyd Smith was famous for. He hated him, even though they both had worked for Axel Agency as partners until Smith started his own agency. Thompson opened the door to the auction room with an audience of 20 or so agents, laughing, clapping, some thumbing their nose, and the auctioneer announcing his presence. Thompson waved at the other agents, smiled big as if he were a celebrity. He looked around. Smith wasn't there. "How nice of you to join us, Mr. Thompson. Your seat has only been empty for 3 hours. The auctioneer said through the microphone. "Oh, come on, Gamble," Thompson yelled out. "I only bid on the best souls." Thompson found his seat beside a nervous Calvin, his partner. "Thank God you're here, Steve." Calvin was wearing that horrible Chex Mix suit. The squares of red and white always made Thompson feel nauseous. "You heard what Ford said on Monday. If we don't snag a good soul he can sell, we're out of a job." "You worry too much, Calvin." Thompson pushed his glasses off the tip of his nose, brushed back a strand of his balding head. "We'll get one. By the way, if you lose this job, you can go back to being a gym coach." "Oh, but your wife still thinks you do that, "What do you tell your wife, Steve-O?" Calvin said in a mocking voice. Thompson turned to the auctioneer, tried to pay closer attention to the event. "None of your damn business is what I tell her." Thompson smiled to himself. "Just don't let Smith outbid you," Calvin whispered. "He's not here." Thompson saw the picture of a senator placed on an easel. The agent next to them whispered to them, "Smith was here. He was called away for something urgent." "Oh, great! What luck, Steve-O?" Calvin placed his huge hand on Thompson's shoulder. Thompson jerked away. The man was a giant. Played 3 years as center for the Broncos before blowing out a knee. Now he was an agent of death for the Axel Agency, and not a very good one. He and Thompson has had too many lost souls. They slip away and haunt someone or some building or even an object. Once a deadline to exit the souls to the other side is missed, they are gone for eternity. For the senator, Thompson bid $450. It jumped to 500 credits. Thompson raised his hand 600 credits. Burke from Denholm Agency bid 1,000 credits. Thompson screamed, 1,500! Calvin jabbed Thompson in the ribs with an elbow. Thompson gave him a look, daggers in his eyes. "The agency only gave us 1,800 credits." "Back off," Thompson growled. "I know what I'm doing." Thompson heard the bidding close at 2,500 credits. His jaw dropped to the floor. "What? What happened?" he cried out. "The bid closed on you while you were talking," one of the agents said. "Which of you bastards?" Thompson stood, his face beet red with anger. "It was Smith," someone said. "By phone." Thompson kicked his chair, cursed under his breath. Thompson placed a hand over his worried face. He was done for. He would surely lose his job, or worse, be retired. "This young lady was recently deceased," the auctioneer said. "As a matter of fact, this last acquirement only died 20 minutes ago." Thompson sat in his chair, barely looked up. He crossed his arms, shook his head. They removed the senator's picture from the easel and replaced it with a beautiful dark-haired woman smiling, as if there were no cares in the world. "This is Jenna Smith. Died from a car accident," the auctioneer said. Thompson's eyes lit up. He moved his lips to say the woman's name. "That's Smith's wife," he whispered to Calvin. Calvin stopped picking his nose and looked up. "Don't do it," Calvin whispered back. "Please don't bid on her, Steve-O."
"He can't bid on the soul of a loved one, Calvin. If he does, he could be retired. Those are the rules."
"Let one of these other jerks do this. For God's sake, Steve, Smith used to be a friend." Thompson wrinkled his nose. "Screw him," he said, and topped out the bid. 25,000. The auction room went silent. "That was all the credits we were allotted for the year, Steve." Calvin buried his head in his hands. "If," Thompson pulled out the company credit card and slammed it on the auction treasurer's desk. "I'm going out, Calvin. I want to go out with style." "But if you lose this soul, you'll be retired." Calvin shook his head. "And I will too." "No." Thompson watched the treasurer swipe his card. "You are no longer my partner. I'll get the paperwork drawn up after I do this." The treasurer handed Thompson the credit card. With the other hand, he signed for the sale. "You won't be retired." Thompson tried to smile, but it turned into a smirk. This was Thompson's justice. He was sick of this business, taking souls across into the light or the darkness. It wears on a person's mind. Sometimes you even dream about it. He hated Smith so much, he was willing to be retired. Who were they kidding? The company doesn't retire you. They incinerate you, and your soul becomes one of those whispering voices in the winds during a storm. Lousy way to go. Well, if he made up something, showed what a jerk Smith was, how many souls he'd stolen from him, they would understand how letting the man's wife become a lost soul was just cause for revenge. They might let him go and wait for him to die. Then his soul would become a whispering voice. That would never happen. The auction had given him info on where Smith's wife may be. He tried the hospital. No dice. He tried the school where she had taught first grade. No spirit wandering the school's halls. The last place was a summer home on a Maine beach. Thompson arrived just in time for sundown. The sun illuminated the overcast sky, bright reds and oranges and a wild pink and blue beyond the horizon. He saw a woman standing at the edge of the pier, quietly watching the waves dance across the elegant river. She was nearly transparent in her sundress. Her dark hair whipped around her face, courtesy of the rolling wind. "Jenna," Thompson called out to the woman. She turned quickly. There was a crease between her eyes to show her confusion. She looked at Thompson as if she only heard a voice and saw no one. Then she smiled slightly, after recognizing a person belonged to the voice. "Oh," Jenna said, "you're here to take me." "More or less," Thompson nodded. Jenna laughed. "Men are always so vague." She looked at him. "I was hoping I could get a chance to say goodbye to Floyd." "Did you love your husband?" Thompson approached her cautiously. If he ran to her, she might jump into the river. But maybe he wanted her to. He couldn't make up his mind. "Yes," she said without hesitation. If Thompson let her go, she would haunt Smith until he died. "Would you like to go for a walk?" Thompson put out his hand. Jenna bit her lip, reached out for Thompson. From a distance, a voice called out for her. She pulled back her hand. Thompson turned, saw it was Smith running up the pier. "Jenna, no! Don't take his hand!" He was coming up fast, waving his hands. "Please, Jenna! I'll take her across, Thompson, you bastard!" Jenna stepped backwards. All she saw was a blur of a body coming towards her and a muffled voice screaming at her. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. Fear ran across her face. Jenna turned toward the waves crashing against the pier. "Stay back, Smith! What are you doing? You know you'll scare her away!" No sooner had Thompson caught Smith by the arms, Jenna was gone. The current had taken her, enveloped her in its white underbelly. Smith and Thompson stood, both at a loss for words. Smith burst into tears. Thompson closed his eyes, let go of Smith. Thompson walked away.
Twisted Pulp Radio Hour, your host was Dr. Mary Von Rocket Sprocket, played by Lothar Tuppen. Your co-host was Miss Tiffany Teagarden, played by Jerry Ella. Episode written by Mark Slade. Theme music by Tim Slade. End music by Chauncey Hayworth. Produced by Mark Slade, Lothar Tuppen, and Chauncey Hayworth. Directed by Mark Slade.
Ha ha ha!